The night on the Perseus fringe was calm. The human outpost floated in space like a quiet lantern in the dark. Thousands of small lights from the control tower shone softly, making the station look like a floating city. Inside the main observation dome, Elias Morgan stood alone, watching the endless sky. Elias liked the night shift. While most people slept, the station was silent. Only the sound of the humming machines and the soft beeps of the scanners filled the air. He loved the stars. He loved how endless and mysterious they were. But tonight, he was not alone. She was there again. The alien woman stood near the glass wall, wearing a long silver robe that shimmered like starlight. Her name was Selvara. Everyone on the station knew her, even if they didn't talk to her. She had arrived 2 months ago on a quiet transport ship. She spoke little, walked slowly, and always stood in the same place at night, watching a single dark patch in the sky. Elias had seen her many times before, but never spoken to her. Something about her felt distant, not cold but heavy, as if she carried a silent storm inside her heart. People called her the widow. They whispered she had lost her partner in some distant war. But no one really knew the truth. Elias looked at the monitor. All systems were stable. He should have returned to his desk, but his eyes moved back to Selvara. Her skin was pale gold, glowing faintly under the dome's soft blue lights. Her hair, long and silver, flowed behind her like silk. Her eyes, deep violet, almost black, never blinked when she looked at that dark patch of stars. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just watched. Elias felt a strange pull in his chest. Not love, not yet, but a quiet curiosity that grew stronger each night. Finally, after weeks of silence, he walked toward her. "Cold night," Elias said softly. Selvara did not look at him. "The stars are not cold," she replied. Her voice was calm, slow, and clear. "They only feel cold when your heart forgets how to listen." Elias wasn't sure what she meant. He smiled nervously. "You watch this part of space every night." "Why?" She finally turned to face him. For the first time, he saw something in her eyes. Not sadness exactly, but a quiet fear. "Because something there remembers," she whispered. Before Elias could ask more, the lights above flickered. Just once. It wasn't unusual. Small power shifts happened sometimes. But the way Selvara's eyes narrowed made the air feel heavier. She turned back to the window. "Did you see that?" Elias asked. "Yes," she answered. "It has begun." A quiet mystery. The next evening, Elias came back earlier than usual. He told himself he was just checking the systems, but deep down, he knew the real reason. He wanted to see her again. Selvara was already at her place near the window. This time she wore a simple dark blue robe. Her hair floated gently in the recycled air. She didn't turn when he approached. "I looked at the system logs," Elias said. "There was no power failure last night. The flicker came from outside." "I know," she said. Elias frowned. "You know?" "Yes," she paused. "Because it was not power. It was the rift." Elias tilted his head. "The rift?" Selvara slowly lifted her hand and pointed at the same dark section of the sky she always watched. "There," she whispered. "Behind those stars something sleeps. Something old. Something waiting." Elias felt a chill run through his chest. He looked at the dark patch, but it was empty. Just black space. "What is it?" he asked, her voice softened. Not what. Who. Whispers of the past. Over the next few nights, Elias found himself drawn to her. Each time they spoke, she revealed a little more. Not everything, but small pieces. She told him she came from a distant world called Therine, a world where silence was a sacred thing and memory was a living force. She had once lived with someone she loved. He was not a soldier, she said, but a guardian. Guardians were keepers of ancient truths. He had vanished one night, not killed, not gone to war, simply vanished into the rift. Since then, she had followed its whispers across the stars, looking for answers. And somehow the path had led her here, to this lonely human station. Elias didn't know whether to believe her or not. Humans had explored many parts of the galaxy, but there were still places they didn't understand. Many scientists dismissed ancient sleeping things as myths told by older races. But Selvara didn't speak like someone telling a story. She spoke like someone who had seen it. "You don't believe me," she said one night, not looking away from the window. "I want to," Elias replied honestly. "But the rift, no one has ever seen anything there." Selvara's lips curved into a sad smile. Then perhaps humans do not know where to look. A flicker in the dark had happened on the 10th night. Elias was adjusting the scanning arrays when he noticed a strange reading on his monitor. A small sharp spike in the sensor feed, too short to be a ship, too clean to be random noise. He zoomed in on the coordinates. His heart beat faster. It was coming from the exact dark patch Selvara had pointed at. He ran to the dome. Selvara was already there, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "You see it too," she said before he could speak. Elias nodded. "What is it?" "It's a heartbeat," she whispered. The dark patch of space was no longer completely still. Something behind it, far, far away, shimmered faintly like a wave moving through water. Not bright, not loud, just alive. Elias stared at the screen on his handheld scanner. The signal pattern was too regular to be natural. It almost felt like a pulse. "Selvara," he said slowly, "is this what you've been waiting for?" Her hands clenched at her sides. "Yes," she said. "It has awakened. A secret unfolding." The next day, rumors spread through the outpost. Technicians noticed minor signal distortions. Navigation systems reported subtle pull from the dark region. Scientists called it a sensor glitch. Officers dismissed it. But Selvara said nothing. She just kept watching. Elias tried to focus on his work, but he couldn't stop thinking about what he saw. He reviewed the signal over and over again. It was almost like a pattern. A message that evening. He went to the dome early. Selvara was already there. She turned to him before he spoke. "It wants to be heard," she said. Elias frowned. "Who wants to be heard?" "The rift," she said simply. "Or what lives inside it." She walked slowly toward the control panel and placed her golden hand over the glass. The scanner lights blinked softly. Elias saw strange symbols appear on the small display. Symbols he had never seen before. They weren't human. They weren't any known language he recognized. "How are you doing that?" Elias asked, stepping closer. "It remembers me," she said, "because I once stood at its edge." Her words echoed softly in the dome. Elias could hear the quiet hum of the machines, the distant beat of the signal, and her calm breathing. It felt as if the whole universe was holding its breath. The night of the rift, later that night, when most of the crew was asleep, Elias returned again. He didn't know why. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the feeling that something big was about to happen. The dome was dark except for the soft blue glow of the console lights. Selvara was still there. She hadn't moved at all. She stood like a statue, her gaze locked on the rift. "Do you ever sleep?" Elias asked gently. She didn't turn. "I listen." "To what?" "To the space between stars," she whispered. "It speaks if you know how to hear." He walked up beside her. The dark patch seemed larger now. Or maybe it was just his imagination, but something in that emptiness made his skin prickle. "I'm just a technician," Elias said. "I fix things. I'm not supposed to be part of whatever this is." "You already are," Selvara said softly. "Because it chose you." Elias blinked. "Chose me?" She nodded slowly. "Last night, when you looked into it, the rift looked back." His chest tightened. He wanted to laugh, but he couldn't. Something deep inside told him she wasn't lying. The signal spike hadn't just appeared. It had answered. A new beginning. A soft alarm sounded in the dome. Elias turned to the screen. A new signal had arrived. Stronger, clearer. A perfect rhythmic pulse like a message tapping at the edge of the universe. Elias leaned closer to the screen. This looks like coordinates." Selvara's voice was barely above a whisper. "It is calling." The stars outside seemed unchanged, but Elias could feel the weight in the air. It was the same feeling he got before a storm on old Earth. Silent, heavy, waiting. "What happens now?" Elias asked. Selvara finally turned to look at him fully. Her violet eyes glimmered like twin stars. "Now," she said, "the secret begins." Elias didn't sleep that night. The signal continued, steady and clear, as if the universe itself had finally decided to speak. For the first time, he realized this was not just an alien widow watching the stars. This was the start of something bigger than the station. Bigger than both of them, and he was no longer just watching, he was part of the story. Every night after that strange moment, the same rhythmic pulse echoed through the observation dome. It was never loud, never harsh. It was soft, steady, like the heartbeat of something sleeping very far away. Most of the crew ignored it. The scientists called it background noise. The officers said it was nothing, but Elias Morgan knew it was not nothing, and Selvara, she had been waiting for it. The message in the pulse 3 days after the signal began. Elias sat alone in the scanning room. The glow of the monitors filled the space with soft blue light. His fingers tapped against the table as lines of data ran down the screen. The signal came at the same time every night. It carried a pattern, not random, not static. It was language. Not a language humans knew, but a structured code. He compared it with every known database, but no match appeared. Elias leaned back in his chair. He didn't fully understand why he was doing this. It wasn't his job to solve cosmic mysteries. He was just a technician. But ever since Selvara had told him it chose you, he couldn't stop thinking about it. The door slid open behind him. He didn't need to look to know who it was. Selvara walked in quietly, her silver robe flowing like a soft wave. Her eyes were calm, but they always carried a shadow of something deep, memory, loss, and something she hadn't yet said aloud. "You are listening," she said softly. Elias turned in his chair. "You're not surprised?" "I told you," she said, stepping closer. "It remembers you." Elias pointed at the screen. "I don't understand this language. I've tried everything." She leaned over the console, her fingers brushing the glass. At her touch, the code on the screen shifted. Strange, curved symbols appeared in patterns. Elias blinked in surprise. "You can read this?" He asked. "Not all," she said, "but enough." What she revealed, Selvara's voice became softer, as if she were speaking to the stars rather than him. "A long time ago," she began. "Before humans reached the stars, there was a time of great silence. The old species, the ones who came before us, created something to guard that silence. We call it the Rift. But the Rift is not a place. It is alive. It listens. It remembers." Elias felt a quiet chill run down his arms. "Alive?" "Yes," she said. "But it does not speak to everyone. It only answers the ones who can unlock it. My people tried for centuries. We failed, but humans..." She looked at him then, her violet eyes steady. "Humans are different. The Rift hears you." Elias shook his head slowly. "Why me? I'm not special." Selvara's lips curved slightly. "Sometimes the universe does not choose those who are special. It chooses those who will listen." Her words settled in his chest like a stone dropping into still water. She moved to the big dome window where the black sky stretched endlessly. "It was my partner," she said quietly. "He followed the Rift. He found the first pulse. But he never returned. I came to finish what he began." Elias stepped closer to her. "What happened to him?" She turned her gaze back to the darkness. "He opened the door." Elias didn't know what that meant, but something in her voice made him stay silent. A quiet discovery. For the next several nights, Elias and Selvara worked side by side. They didn't tell the officers what they were doing. It wasn't that they wanted to hide it. They just knew no one would believe them. The more they studied the pulse, the clearer it became. The code was not a warning. It was a map. Selvara showed him the ancient star charts her people carried. "This is the path," she said. "It leads to the core of the Rift." Elias frowned at the glowing pattern. "That's deep outside any known travel lane." "Yes," she said. "Because no one is meant to find it easily." The signal pulsed again through the speakers. Soft, steady. Elias stared at the waveforms on the screen. Suddenly, something shifted. The pulse changed for the first time. It became longer, slower, like someone breathing deeply. "What's happening?" Elias asked. Selvara placed a hand on his shoulder. "It knows we're listening." Between stars and secrets later that night, Elias sat alone under the observation dome. The others were asleep. The stars shone silently outside, and the rift patch was darker than anything else in the sky. He thought about what Selvara said, about the guardian she loved, about doors that should not be opened. He thought about himself too, just a simple man who fixed machines. And yet, the universe had spoken to him. He closed his eyes and listened, not with the scanners, just with his heart. The pulse came again. This time he could almost feel it inside his chest, a soft thump that matched his heartbeat. For a strange moment, the rift didn't feel far away. It felt close, like it was behind a wall of glass waiting for someone to reach through. "Elias," a voice whispered behind him. He opened his eyes. Selvara stood there. The soft light from the stars made her hair shine like silver. She stepped closer, her face calm but serious. "You felt it, didn't you?" she asked. Elias hesitated, then nodded. She looked toward the rift. "Then it has begun." The chamber below the next morning. Selvara led Elias somewhere he had never been before, deep into the station's lower levels. It was old down there. The walls were scratched with the marks of time. The air smelled different, like old metal. Elias frowned. "How do you even know about this part of the station?" Selvara's steps were light. "Because your people built this place long ago on the remains of something older. The rift's echo has always been here." They reached a locked door. Selvara placed her hand on the scanner. To Elias's surprise, the lock opened. "How did you—" "It remembers me," she said simply. Inside was a small circular chamber. The walls were lined with old star maps and forgotten human instruments. In the center, a sphere floated gently, humming softly. The light from the sphere matched the rhythm of the pulse. Elias stared. "What is this?" "Your people didn't build this," Selvara said. "They found it." The truth in the light. Elias stepped closer to the sphere. It glowed softly, and not just white, but shifting between blue and gold like a living star. When he reached out his hand, the sphere pulsed faster, as if recognizing him. "It's responding," he whispered. "Yes," Selvara said quietly. "Because it belongs to the rift," he turned to her. "Then why keep it here?" She took a slow breath. "Because your ancestors promised to guard it. They understood something few species ever did. The rift is not a weapon. It is a bridge, a path to something very old, something that should not be forced." Elias felt the soft hum of the sphere under his skin. It didn't feel dangerous. It felt alive, like a sleeping creature. Selvara stepped beside him. "My partner believed the rift was not only alive but also searching for someone who could complete the bridge. He thought he was that person. He was wrong." Elias looked at her slowly. "And you think it's me?" "I don't think," she said softly. "I know." An unexpected choice that night. The pulse grew stronger. It spread through the station's lower scanners. Engineers began to notice strange readings. Officers grew nervous. The captain ordered more tests, but no one found the source. Elias and Selvara returned to the chamber. The sphere was brighter now. Its glow filled the entire room with warm light. "It's calling," Selvara said. "The bridge is opening." Elias swallowed hard. "What happens if I touch it?" Selvara looked at him with calm eyes. "Then the rift will listen. But remember, once it listens, it will not forget." Elias hesitated. He was not a hero. He was not a scientist or a soldier. He was just a man who liked quiet nights and stars. But the universe was waiting. And sometimes that's all it takes. He slowly reached out his hand. The moment his fingers brushed the sphere, the pulse stopped. Everything became silent, completely silent. Then a new sound filled the room. Not a pulse anymore, but a voice. Not loud, not harsh. A whisper like wind in the trees. "Elias Morgan." His breath caught in his chest. The voice was clear, even though no one else was speaking. Selvara's eyes widened. "It knows your name," she whispered. The voice came again. "The bridge remembers. The door awaits." The sphere flashed once, and an image appeared in the air, a map of the galaxy, with one single point glowing in the dark. The heart of the rift. A decision in the dark. Elias stepped back slowly, his heart racing. "Why me?" he asked, almost to himself. Selvara placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Because humans see what others fear to look at." He stared at the glowing point in the air. It was so far away, beyond travel lanes, beyond the places anyone dared to go. Selvara's voice became softer. "You don't have to do this." But something inside Elias had already changed. Ever since the night he saw the rift flicker for the first time, he knew he was already part of this. He couldn't step back now. He met her eyes. "I think I have to." She nodded slowly, a quiet understanding between them. The night before the journey, that night, the station slept while Elias and Selvara sat under the observation dome again. The rift looked the same as always. It was a black patch of sky. But now Elias saw it differently, not as emptiness, but as something waiting. Selvara sat beside him, silent for a long time. Finally, she said, "When I lost him, I thought the rift took everything from me. But maybe it was never about loss. Maybe it was waiting for the right voice." Elias looked at her, then at the stars. "And now it hears mine." "Yes," she whispered. "And tomorrow it will listen." The pulse returned one last time that night. Soft, steady, warm. Elias felt no fear now. Only quiet. The bridge had chosen him, and the secret was no longer hidden in the silence. The night was quieter than usual. The stars outside the observation dome looked cold and still, like they were holding their breath. Deep inside the station, in the hidden chamber, the glowing sphere waited for Elias Morgan. The pulse had not returned since the night it spoke his name. The silence was strange, heavy. It felt like standing before a door that was ready to open. Selvara stood at the edge of the dome, watching the dark patch in the sky that humans called empty space. She knew it was not empty. She had known for many years. And now so did Elias. Elias walked toward her. His steps were slow but sure. He no longer looked uncertain, like the quiet technician who once fixed wires and checked sensors. There was a quiet strength in him now, not loud or heroic, but real. "Are you ready?" Selvara asked softly. "No," Elias admitted with a small smile. "But I'm going anyway." She tilted her head slightly. "That is the most human thing I have ever heard." A plan unfolding. The next morning the station was busy. Officers were confused by the signal reports. Engineers complained about strange power readings. Scientists whispered about ghost frequencies. No one truly understood what was happening, and except Elias and Selvara. They walked through the crowded corridors together. No one noticed them. To the others, they were just two quiet figures moving through the station. But in truth, they were walking toward the oldest secret in that place. In the chamber below, the sphere glowed softly like a sleeping star. The map still floated in the air above it, showing one glowing point far away, the heart of the rift. Elias stared at it for a long time. "This is it," he said quietly. "Once we do this, everything changes." Selvara nodded. "The bridge opens for only one who listens. If we step through, we will not return as we were." He looked at her. "Do you trust me?" "I trust the choice the rift made," she said calmly. Then softer, "And I trust you." The bridge awakens. Elias placed his hand on the sphere again. This time it did not speak in a whisper. Light spread through the room, bright, warm, and silent. The air hummed like a distant song. The floor beneath them seemed to vanish, replaced by a feeling like standing at the center of a star. The map expanded. What was once a single glowing point became a path, thin golden lines connecting stars like threads of light. The path ended at a swirling shape, dark and bright at the same time. The heart of the rift. A soft voice filled the room again. It wasn't loud. It wasn't frightening. It was calm like an old friend. "Elias Morgan, the door opens when you choose to walk." Selvara stepped closer to him. "It's waiting." Elias took a slow breath. His mind flashed through every night he had spent watching the stars. Every quiet moment he thought the universe was just empty space. And now, he knew it was listening. "I choose to walk," he said. The journey through the rift, the light grew stronger. The walls of the chamber disappeared. The station faded away. Elias felt no pain, no fear, only the feeling of moving without moving, like falling through soft air. Selvara stood beside him, calm as if she had waited for this moment all her life. Around them, stars flowed like rivers of light. The path of gold stretched ahead, leading them into a vast darkness that pulsed with a soft rhythm. Elias understood now why they called it the rift. It wasn't a hole. It was a living gate. "It's beautiful," Elias whispered. Selvara nodded. "It has always been." The golden threads carried them forward. As they moved, Elias began to hear faint sounds. Not words exactly, but soft tones like music. They came from the rift itself. Each tone seemed to match his heartbeat, like the universe was learning his rhythm. The first door, after what felt like both a moment and an eternity, they reached it, a shape made of pure shadow and light. It looked like a door without walls. The space around it was silent, deep, and endless. Selvara stepped forward slowly. "This is where my partner came," she whispered. "This is where he disappeared." Elias touched her hand gently. "We'll face it together." The voice returned again, soft as ever. "Elias Morgan, listener of silence, the bridge recognizes you." The golden threads around the door lit up and the shadow began to shift. Elias and Selvara walked through together, the heart of the rift, and the other side was a place no human had ever seen. There were no planets, no stars, no ships. Just a wide, endless sea of floating light and shapes that changed like flowing water. It felt alive, not dangerous. Just aware, Elias slowly floated forward. It's listening to us. Yes, Selvara said quietly. It always listens. A shape began to form in front of them. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't a machine. It was a presence, like the thought of a star made real. A warm golden shape pulsing in time with the heartbeat that had called him from so far away. The presence spoke, but not with sound. It spoke inside their minds, clear and kind. Many have come. Few have listened. Selvara bowed her head slightly. Elias simply watched. You came not to conquer. You came to listen. This is why the bridge answered. Elias didn't speak aloud. His thoughts flowed like words. Why me? Because humans hear what others fear. You look at silence and do not run, you ask. And asking is the beginning. The golden light expanded around them like sunlight through water. A secret revealed. The rift showed them its memory. They saw stars forming, galaxies spinning like dance patterns. They saw ancient beings, not gods, not monsters, just travelers who learned to speak with the universe. The rift was their creation. Not a weapon, not a trap. A bridge for voices, a place where silence could speak back. Selvara's eyes shimmered with emotion. This is what he saw, she whispered about her partner. He wasn't lost. He became part of it. The presence spoke again. He listened too. And so shall you. Elias felt the warmth around him. For the first time in his life, the endless night sky didn't feel cold or distant. It felt alive, friendly. The rift's voice grew softer. The galaxy has forgotten how to listen. But humanity remembers. That is your gift. That is why the stars called you. A new purpose. Slowly, the light around Elias and Selvara began to pull them back toward the bridge. The voice remained gentle. You are not trapped. The bridge is not a cage. It is a path. Take what you have heard and teach the stars to listen again. Selvara looked at Elias. For the first time since he met her, there was no shadow in her eyes. Only peace. You gave it your voice, she said softly. Now it has given you its trust. The rift began to fade into soft golden mist. The heartbeat pulse echoed one last time, a slow, steady rhythm that felt like a promise. Back to the station, Elias blinked, and the world returned. He was standing in the hidden chamber. The sphere floated quietly before him. The map had disappeared. Only a single soft light remained, pulsing like a gentle star. Selvara stood beside him, silent, calm. The station outside continued its normal routine, as if nothing had happened. Officers were giving orders, scientists were checking data, and engineers were fixing power lines. But something had changed. The pulse was gone from the instruments. But not from Elias. He could still feel it in his chest. Not as a burden, but as a friend. The widow's smile. That night, Elias went back to the observation dome. The stars shone the same way they always did, but now he saw them differently. They were not silent anymore. They were singing, softly, patiently, waiting for someone to listen. Selvara stood beside him once again. For the first time since she arrived, her shoulders seemed lighter. You found your answer, Elias said. She nodded slowly. Yes, and so did you. Elias looked at her. What will you do now? I have spent years chasing the rift, she said softly. Now I will stay. The secret is not mine alone anymore. A quiet smile touched her lips, the kind that comes after a long journey, not because of joy alone, but because of understanding. A new beginning over the next few days. Elias returned to his normal duties. He fixed machines, checked sensors, and watched the stars at night. But every heartbeat reminded him that he had touched something greater, something that had been waiting for a listener for centuries. Selvara often joined him at the dome. They did not need to talk much anymore. Just standing together watching the stars was enough. One night, as they watched the rift patch in the sky, a soft glow flickered there. Not a pulse, just a small, warm shimmer. Elias smiled. Selvara whispered, "It remembers." And he whispered back, "So do I." The last message days later, Elias found something new in the chamber. The sphere glowed softly and projected a single line of symbols, clear, simple, and beautiful. He didn't need Selvara to translate it. Somehow he understood. Listening is how everything begins. He stood in the chamber for a long time, just smiling quietly. He didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel special. But he felt connected, to the stars, to Selvara, to something bigger than himself. The night, the stars spoke back. The station continued to float in space, small and quiet. But from that night on, it no longer felt like just a piece of metal in the dark. It felt like part of something living. The rift never roared. It never threatened. It simply listened. And it waited for those who would listen back. Elias Morgan, a quiet technician, became the first human, listener of the rift. Selvara, the alien widow who had carried her secret across light years, found peace at last. And somewhere, beyond the black, the stars whispered their soft song. The night was no longer silent. It was beautiful,